Okay. So yeah, thank you for joining us today. Again, just for the recording purposes, we're having Brenda, who's a cybersecurity expert, and she's doing so much in the cybersecurity space. And she is she won Outstanding Woman in Tech Diaspora Award for the Women in Tech Africa awards, and she'll be sharing her journey with us today. So before we get started, maybe a bit of housekeeping rules. So just ensure that your mic is always muted so that we don't have disruptions during the session. And feel free to, if you have any questions, you can just put them in the chat. We'll have a Q&A session towards the end of our discussion today. So we'll get started right away. So Brenda, maybe you can just start by telling us how you got started in tech and why cybersecurity. Maybe just give us a small or a brief of how you got into tech and cybersecurity in particular. Yeah.
So funny story, I got into tech by accident. Coming from an African household and looking at career options, you either a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. And each one of those had different negative connotations for me. So doctor, it took too long to, I'd have to do 8 years residency and then that specialize. I'm like, I don't have enough time to do that. Lawyer, I hated reading. Funny, being in tech, I read a lot, so I should have just gone the lawyer route. And engineer, maths and all of that stuff were not really my strong suit. So kind of jumped into the technical or the technology space in high school. So we had at my boarding school in high school, we had a computers teacher who, we started doing computers there. And then I was actually quite good at it. So I was like, okay, this is good. Okay, this is a potential career. All right, let's see where this goes. And that's how the journey kind of started. From there, progressed to doing my undergrad, which was in computer sciences and information sciences. I did not like the technical stuff, so programming, ethical hacking, that was never my strong suit. I wanted to do a technology degree that had a component of business management towards it. So I did that. Joined one of the first company that I worked for, a very small company, which was an IBM partner, an SME that was an IBM partner, and stayed there for about 2 years. Then I got my big break, or one of my big breaks, which was joining Microsoft in South Africa. So that was a good opportunity. Joined in through what was then considered a graduate program, and then spent 4 years there. After that, the itch kind of started. So the itch of, progressing career-wise, moving. At that point in time, from a cybersecurity point of view, Microsoft had recently gotten its current CEO, Satya Nadella, and he was driving the security and cloud aspect vigorously within the company. So there were components of security in the products that I was responsible for at Microsoft. And, you kind of started developing that interest of what is the security thing and how did I get in? How do you get into it? How do you work around it? Other things like mines, CSI were also, things that kind of geared me into though most of that stuff is fake, yes, but it got me hooked to trying to move into cybersecurity. So when the opportunity arose, I went and did a master's in cybersecurity. I did it in Spain, and I was very cognizant that I wanted to get into the consultancy field after that because I wanted to learn quickly. As you know, consultancy, you work on multiple projects at short time, so it allows you to scale up very quickly. and I got the opportunity to do that. So worked for one of the big four consulting firms in Spain, and moved to UK, where I'm at, another one of the big four. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Such an interesting journey. So, so consultancy, so how was it like to transition from now being more technical to consultancy? Because I know, or was it the masters that made you have a smoother transition to that?
No, actually, it was my role at Microsoft, because it was more of a sales role. And ideally with consulting, predominantly you're selling a solution or a service, right?
Yeah.
So it's those skills that I harnessed when I kind of moved into the consultancy field. So that obviously with the technical aspect of the industry that I was moving into, I mean, I knew of cybersecurity from a technical aspect with my undergrad, but I was now gearing into something more specific in terms of the cybersecurity. So the master's and my previous experience did definitely pave the way for me to move into.
Amazing, amazing. Awesome. So maybe just a follow-up question from that is how can you compare the two experiences, like working for like Microsoft and working in the big four?
Well, there's a running joke where if you worked for one of the big four, you worked for all of them. They're pretty much slight differences. I think they're totally two different areas. So Microsoft is firstly a technology company, but it's also considered in the industry terms as a vendor. So it provides services and products that will be used by other people. Whilst in consultancy, you go into a client and you kind of, you're more or less the trusted advisor that you have. So they're very different hats to wear, but similar in some circumstances.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you for sharing with us your journey. It's so interesting. Okay, so maybe we can proceed to the next question. What are some of the things that got you interested in technology? I know you've already talked about the movies and series and and like starting it from like high school with the computer course. And so now from that, were there any resources that helped you as a woman that you would have liked to see more of that could potentially have made more women to pursue the same career path? Because ideally with all the women in tech, we usually just try to make more women join us in the community, in the space, because there's a really big gender disparity when it comes to the workforce. So maybe you can tell us maybe what you would have wished to see more while in your journey. Did you have a mentor? Maybe you can share that with us.
So you've picked up on something important. I wouldn't necessarily pinpoint a specific resource, but what I would say is I think mentorship is very important. Hence, it being one of my passion projects or passion things that I like to do. Another thing is that representation is very key. Especially, like you said, there's a huge gap between male and female in our industry, you know. And when I was in high school, getting into university, there were very few females that were either in the leadership positions or very few females that actually did anything related to a STEM. It was considered a hard thing to do. Like women should be in HR. Not that there's anything wrong with being in HR. It's that they're seen more as the easier industry to go into, right? So I wish I had found the concept of mentoring, or at least understood it and known how to utilize it really well at a very young age, because I think I would have avoided some of the mistakes that obviously have gotten to me where I am today. But I would have learned really fast in some of these things. So I think for me, the lacking resource, I would say, is mentorship.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Awesome. Yeah. So because yeah, like also I can just relate for my journey as well, because I know I've received like a lot of mentorship, which has really like it helps you to like even just stay grounded, and just you always have someone to go to, like ask something. So I can imagine how it is when you don't have, just as you said, mentorship is key, representation is key. So I can see how the journey was, but you overcame, and we are glad to have you here. It's amazing, awesome. So now that is like not going to the next question. Since like lacking mentorship was a big challenge, and it could have like made you maybe feel a bit disheartened, but maybe it didn't. And maybe you can share with us any other challenges that you had just in your career journey, and how you are able to overcome them.
One of the big challenges was being a woman of color so the role that I took in Spain, we were very few people of color, and very few of African descent, and you know, this goes on. So that in itself becomes a bit of a challenge. I think people underestimate the ability of moving to a different country and trying to settle in terms of culture. So as an individual, you leave everything that you know. You leave your family, your friends, similarities, the foods that you like, you know, all of those things that make home. You leave that to obviously pursue a dream goal that you want to achieve. But with that comes its costs as well. So you're not going to have these things that you have. And in some cases, Spain was a very good example. I found that I didn't speak the language, so that was a language barrier. Yet, luckily, my clients were based in Africa, so I looked after the African market. Internal communication was in Spanish. So there were times when, you know, there was a language barrier, there was a culture shock and shift in terms of new stuff. So that in itself became a challenge. But I think one of the things that I'm grateful for is that I easily make friends, or I'm friendly with people. So that helped in finding home away from home, in terms of Africans that are part of that community, and just, you know, figuring out and how to navigate that. Again, another thing is reaching out to different people within the business that can support you in this transition as well. So that's basically how I try to overcome some of these challenges.
Awesome, amazing. So in the process, the people you reached out to, did they end up being like your mentors, or were they like in the same line as you, or just like they were just there to support you and just help you to stay stable and grounded?
A bit of both. So I like to think of mentorship not just as you, Susan, a physical person, be my mentor. Think of mentorship as people that we admire. So let's say I like Oprah Winfrey, for example. She can be a mentor, and I can take a few things from her. So I think when we look at mentorship, we should stay away from equating it to a person, but more look at it as a broader thing. So there are different people with different skills. You can have a spiritual mentor, you can have somebody that helps you with HR, you can have someone that helps you with your career, you can help someone that helps you with family, you know, as you try along the way. So you don't typically need to have a physical person. You can read a book, and that in itself is mentorship, you know. So to answer your question, yes, there were people. I was very strategic when I was pursuing my master's. I looked for a mentor that was going to help me achieve my goals within the school. So I reached out to professors who became a mentor, and is still a mentor of some sort today, and told him what I wanted to achieve, told him that I had 10 months, because I had literally picked up my whole life and moved it to Europe with put myself out. Put him at 10 months, and I was very strategic in my master's. From day one, I started looking for a job.
Ah, amazing.
From day one.
Taking notes.
I was navigating because for me, failure was not an option. And because of the career that I'm in, I really moved to Europe because they're far advanced than we are back home in Africa. So I wanted to learn from the European and Western market. So to get into it, I had to be very strategic. I had to choose the people that I needed to help me get to my goal of finding a job, right? So this particular gentleman was very instrumental in helping secure my first. And I remember I have a running joke with him. I said, I'll make you finding my job your problem, so that, you know, you can say I helped my mentor out for this. So I was very, very purposeful in terms of what I wanted to achieve. Speaking to different people, speaking to the careers development team, learning all these soft skills, improving on the soft skills. Having conversations with different professors, because our professors were industry folk. So we speak to different people. Networking became my second thing, where even if I didn't want
can imagine.
I needed to go to an event because I had a goal. So I was very, very strategic.
Wow. I'm getting so much from this session. You need to be, I rather need to be very strategic with how I'm planning myself and what I want to achieve. So this is one of the advice that you could maybe give someone who wants to, who's starting into the industry, let's say cybersecurity in particular. So what other pieces of advice will you have, let's say, that will make someone else's journey maybe more smoother, and just have a better experience as they try to venture into cybersecurity?
So firstly, I'll say people have this idea that cybersecurity is very technical. So you need to be an ethical hacker, you need to be a network hacker, you need to be all that technical stuff. There are other components of cybersecurity that you can join. You can have a teaching background and you can be a trainer in cybersecurity. You can be in HR and you can be a talent acquisition for cybersecurity. You can be in marketing and gear your campaigns to more cybersecurity focus. So just because you don't necessarily have a technical degree does not mean that you cannot get into cybersecurity. Now, that being said, it's always easier if you have a technical degree or you have a technical understanding of how computers work and all of that, right? It helps. But I always believe that if you've got the right attitude, you can learn the technical stuff pretty easy. There's a free university called YouTube, which you literally just need to go there and you find anything and everything around topic. So the first thing I would do is try to research around the different areas of cybersecurity, like I've mentioned, right? Try and see where your current skills can actually be transitioned into particular areas. And then be hungry for it, be passionate for it, because you would like to have a job that you're passionate about that doesn't feel like a job. And for sure, in this industry, we're very excited about it. We're excited about reading about, just the different concepts of cybersecurity, from just a personal view of just how you manage your social media accounts, for example, to a global view in terms of how a business looks after its environment. So first thing I'll do is research the different areas, then apply your skills that you have, see where your gaps are for the skills that you don't have, and have a plan to obtain those skills. And then look for a mentor. Half of the people are on LinkedIn, they're a message away. The most say to you is no, and you move on to the next person. So
yeah. Yeah, for sure. So so be bold, reach out. The worst they can say is a no. And
yeah, okay, to a certain degree, but I was annoying to a certain degree at times. But also, I think another thing to mention is once you go seeking mentorship, at least have an idea is that you wanted to achieve. You can't expect a mentor to come and start telling you what you need to achieve. You can have a conversation in terms of, these are my areas of improvement and all these different things. But make sure you don't make it the mentor's job to now start figuring out what's good for you. You should have an idea of what it is that you want to do. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, for sure. Because even as a mentor, they want to know how they can impact you maximally.
Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Oh, awesome. Thank you for...
They're using their most important resource, which is time.
Time. Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome. Hey, so many nuggets of wisdom. I'm also taking notes. I don't know if you've noticed. So now, so this is the advice you've given us. And so now, since you mentioned you had people who are helping you in your journey, and you've also mentioned the challenges. So what advice would you have wished you would have received way earlier on in your journey? That would have made it way better, a better experience for you? Or is it the same thing? Maybe
I think mentorship, but I think also honesty.
Honesty. Okay.
I think honesty in whatever you're seeking. I think we like to paint the bright picture. So like, oh, it was such an easy journey for me to get to the UK. It wasn't easy. They were tears. They were, all of these different conversations. My sisters, knew the back end. We would have wine sessions in terms of how do we navigate the next move. So I think having somebody that's been honest with you, that tells you the good and the bad, so that you can actually have a balanced view of how to progress with this particular career journey. For example, I hated programming. I had to do it to pass because it was a subject that I needed to pass. My first job involved programming. So I say God has a sense of humor because I did not want anything to do with programming. And then the thing that I actually hated was sales. And guess what? I joined Microsoft. It was a sales role. Another sense of humor that God had. So I found that I was also pushed, if I'm talking from my faith perspective, I was also pushed to align to some of the things that I didn't want to do, but I needed to do in order to be where I am today. So it wasn't easy for me to get here. It's not easy to jump onto a plane. I literally, when I decided, people thought I was crazy. When I decided to do my master's, I left a good paying job. I resigned within 2 months.
Wow. And
then the third month, I was starting my master's. And even that, I was going to tell my parents. So I had to fly back home being Zambia. I fly back home to tell my parents that I was moving to a different country, which they could not comprehend in terms of like, when did you make this?
Wow.
But I knew deep down that I wanted this thing and I knew I could achieve it. Quote that I kept on aligning to, and it goes, sometimes life is about risking everything for a dream no one else can see but you. Most cases, you're the only one who can see your dream. Now, this being said, I did make calculated moves. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't want people just quitting their jobs and saying,
Hey, especially right now, it's
exactly
super hard with the layoffs and everything happening in the industry.
Right. So make your calculated moves for this risk and this dream that you want to achieve. So it for me, honesty would have been the best. Like I said, half of the things I probably wouldn't have done if someone was honest enough to say that programming is hard. You probably fail it and do it 3 times before you actually pass.
I know.
I wouldn't have done that. So yeah, I think just being honest is something that I think a lot of people will appreciate.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Because ideally, when you mention honesty, because no one really shares the bad sides of things. You only see the rosy stuff. So even if as a mentee, let's say, and you're looking up to someone, you're like, oh my God, they're so perfect. And you concentrate on your flaws and where you failed, and it can be disheartening. But I love what you're saying about the honesty bit and just knowing the good and the bad so that you can even better prepare for yourself. Yeah. Love that. So maybe you can talk to us more about what you're doing in the community. You have a podcast, you're active in the Women in Tech Zambia network, so you can share with us maybe tell us more about your community engagements and how maybe you can say the community can support women and can help support more women to just come into the tech industry, and even if more specific to cybersecurity. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you did mention. So I founded and co-host a podcast called Honey Pot Chats with a friend of mine, Matambela, who is doing amazing as well in she's a regional CISO of the Pan-African Bank. So you see, girls doing big things. So we decided, I think the podcast was birthed from COVID. So we had so much time. As we thought the world was coming to an end. So we had so much time on our hands. The idea or the concept behind the podcast was to be able to explain cyber concepts in the most simplest way. Our target market when we're developing this was looking at people like our grandparents who do not understand what a computer is or a phone, how to use a phone, and just basically breaking it down to that extent. We share our experiences on that as well. Experiences of one of our new episodes that's coming out or is out actually is around having been on interview panels and being an interviewee, what some of the experiences are and what we call the pet peeves are as well. So things that young people today that are starting out in the career can start thinking of: how you dress, how you present yourself, how you articulate yourself, be prepared for the interview, those small little things. Again, we're no HR experts, but just from our personal opinions and experiences. So that's the concept of the podcast. It's something that we're very passionate about and trying to grow, but because we do full-time jobs, we're both very, very busy. The other thing that I'm involved in is the Women in Tech Network in Zambia. And I'm looking forward to collaborating with the Women in Tech Africa. So we will be reaching out. And ideally, the similar background, we wanted to have representation. We wanted to see more women board level, tech level. We wanted to show that the STEM industry is not as hard as most people think it is. And again, you can come from any background and join the STEM industry. So ladies and I founded this association. It's about almost just over a year, close to 2 years. And we're trying to be disruptors from a female perspective. So we're pushing a lot of that. We're challenging the status quo. We're also looking for allies who are men, because in order for to change, we need to have allies who are men.
For sure.
Then the work with Courage Foundation is a foundation that was started by, so the founder is a friend of mine. I'm a founding member. And ideally, the concept is trying to give shoes to underprivileged households. Our list is Zambia. It's also a very small initiative that has started. Gave, I think, about close to 100 shoes last year, just between, this is personal donations. So now we're reaching out to different corporates. So if you work for a corporate and you want to do something good, please reach out. We know how to use your money. So yeah, ideally, the things that it's interesting how, you know, giving a pair of shoes to a little kid changes their perspective of life. And obviously we want to grow more than that. We want to go into stationery. We've got bold ambitions to create a computer lab someday with some money. So again, corporates, please reach out to us. And do that. So it's the concept of Ubuntu and, you know, giving back. Those are, I guess, the three main things I'm involved in. Yeah. Apart from mentoring ladies.
Amazing. It's so exciting to hear your journey. So I'm curious. So how do you get to the level? Because as a founding member, like, it had to make you get into the leadership and embrace leadership. So how do you, let's say I'm just maybe straight from school and I want to get to a leadership position. How would you say how would you advise someone to like see themselves in a leadership position, or just navigate to a leadership position, maybe even start something on their own and just run away with it? So maybe you can give us some pointers on how to get to maybe that level. Yeah.
So I'm no expert, but we are growing our little things. How does someone get to leadership? I think we are born with some sort of leadership qualities within us. Some of us are older siblings. So when we are helping our younger siblings, that in itself is a form of leadership. You know, sadly, some of us are orphans, so you take over the household. That in itself is a leadership opportunity. I think we need to stop thinking of some of these concepts in the way that is either the book or the way that we're taught to understand that a leader is a boss or something like that. You can always be a leader. You can lead in projects. So for example, if you're working on projects, you know, you ask the question, how does one start that leadership journey? You can try to, you know, lead on that project. So manage that project, depending on the project that you're working on. If there's a budget associated to it, manage the budget, make sure you don't overrun, manage the resources. That in itself, you're learning different things. I think for me, I come from of 5 siblings. So everyone's got a different personality. Including my parents. So everyone literally are managing different personalities. And that's what leadership to a certain degree is, because you're trying to manage different people and different people in different ways. So my motivation might not necessarily be your motivation. And as the leader, everybody needs to actually see. I think another thing about leadership, or another important quality, is that you need to lead by example. Don't expect the people that are following you to do the work that you yourself can't do. There's a young gentleman that I know who started a marketing agency in Zambia, and one of the things that he said is, usually he didn't believe it when he was told that as an entrepreneur, you're the first one in and the last one out. Because at the end of the day,
I've heard that, like saying you quit your 9 to 5 only to work for 12 plus hours.
Right? Because you need to make sure that the salaries will be paid. You need to make sure that the overhead costs will be done. You need to make sure that any other, you know, programs or you know, projects that are running still happen. That will keep you up at night. So I think people should start looking within themselves in terms of some of the different leadership qualities. And I've given various examples, siblings, going on to projects, even just looking at somebody's whose leadership style you like. Again, concept of mentorship, right?
Yeah.
Watch videos around this stuff, have an understanding, and yeah.
Awesome, amazing. Wow. So I hope the listeners are still with us. And maybe as a reminder for those who joined us midway, feel free, if you have any questions for Brenda, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll get to them towards the end of the session. And yeah, so I can see a comment. I think I'll get to that during the Q&A session. So yeah, I hope everyone is listening. Again, maybe just to boost Brenda, if you work for an organization that can support Brenda's work, feel free to reach out to your managers.
Your money.
Yeah. Yes, she can make good use of your money for sure. Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can proceed. How would you describe the opportunities for a woman in cybersecurity are like today?
Good questions. I try to be an optimist. I say there are a lot of opportunities, but it depends, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, there are opportunities. Like I said, most people think of cyber from a technical perspective. There are other opportunities from a business perspective that can engage in cybersecurity. So I will be an optimist and say that there are opportunities. Yeah.
So there are many opportunities if you want to. So like cybersecurity.
It takes hard work to get there. But opportunities are there, and I think it's one of the things where I like to tell ladies, for example, I'll give an example, that when you become a leader, or when you're given an opportunity to enter a workforce, do the best that you can, because you tend to now create the perception around whether women can actually do the work, or it falls to the perception of women don't really know how to do the work. Women, are good for the other types of jobs and they can't do these technical jobs. So once you're given that opportunity as well, you need to make sure that you also deliver on it. If you're on the board, you need to make sure that you do the right thing, so that the next time they're looking to employ another person, a woman is part of the employment, process. If you mess it up for other people, because it's taken us years to get to sit at some of these tables as well.
For sure.
And it only takes one person to mess it up, and then we're back to where we were. So you need to also be very cognizant that once you get into these opportunities, you actually deliver on what they want, and you even exceed that, so that they don't have that thing of where, we're a woman who does not know what she's doing. Show them what you're doing. So that's some of the advice I give the young ladies. Yeah.
Oh, I love that, because I've had this notion that maybe organizations are just employing women for the diversity part of their mission. So you want to be up to the task, just as you've said.
So that is true. And it also works in our favor, right?
Yeah.
If you look at predominantly companies where there were less Black people in them, there's now this Black economic empowerment. I'll speak from a South African point of view. There's an element of Black economic empowerment. Yes, it's a diversity tick box exercise, but it's needed because that diversity and that balance needs to be created. So if a law needs to be passed, or if a regulation needs to be passed in order for us to be given the chance, then that's our easiest way into the door. The rest is us to actually make sure that we stay in the door, we stay in the room.
Inside, for sure.
I agree with you that there's a lot of women empowerment, diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. There's a lot of that because companies have seen that you need different types of people to help you make decisions. You need different representation, so that
representation.
and then want to do what Susan is doing at Safaricom, you know,
Yeah.
and you really need to be deliberate in terms of some of these things that you actually do. So, yes, it might look like, oh, they're, you know, they're giving us great.
Yeah.
It's about
Yeah,
time.
it's working. It's working for us.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a danger for us. Let's take it,
Yeah.
but let's on what we say we're going to deliver. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So if we take advantage of the opportunity and just go and shine and be the best.
Absolutely.
Amazing. I love that. I love that. Okay, so okay, I can see some questions coming in the chat. So we'll get to them in a few. But first, let's hear about Brenda's highlights of her career. She's talked about us about her journey, what she's doing in the community. So tell us what are like some of your biggest achievements, your highlights of your career, let's say so far.
So far. So obviously, thank you to the Women in Tech Africa for the award. That was a highlight.
Congratulations.
Another highlight was my co-host Matimbela and I were invited to speak for MIT Horizon. And MIT Horizon is a subsidiary of MIT University or Technology. So that for us was something huge because it allowed us to also tap into their market and the people that they get to, and not necessarily the African market we tend to market. So that was a highlight for us. And I think I'm very proud of the companies that I've worked for and where I've gotten to right now. I don't always give myself enough props to what I have done, but I think the few times that I take a seat back and reflect on how far I've come, it's really amazing to work for 3 Fortune 500 companies, you know, big names.
Yeah, for sure.
And they continue to open opportunities and open doors. So that in itself is a highlight for my career.
Amazing. Wow. It's such a journey. We look up to you like, wow, it's amazing. So before we close the session, maybe I can go through some of the questions. Okay, so I can see the first question. I think I've already asked this. What advice do you have for someone who's keen on following in your cybersecurity footsteps? How should one prepare for disruption in an industry? How do you seize opportunities? Yeah.
How does one prepare for disruption? I think authentic. You are only you are your only self. I cannot be a Susan. You cannot be a
Brenda. Yeah.
As authentic as you can be. Now in the authenticity English.
Yeah.
That we actually go through, you need to also be respectful, obviously, of different things. I think as then we tend we don't want to be assertive, or when we come out assertive, we tend to be labeled as, oh, she's emotional, or she's this, or that. We can still be assertive and demand, you know, respect and presence in a room, but still do it being respectful.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's something, it's still a learning that I need to do. When you walk into a room, you know, you feel intimidated. The other people, you look at their CVs and like, okay, why am I sitting here? You know, but you are there for a reason. You know, in you for you to be in that room. So I think authenticity has really been something that has played in my favor. I don't be somebody else. I opinionated. I usually say what's on my mind, which sometimes does not necessarily go the right way that it should. But I think with me, usually what you see is what you get. And that in itself has opened doors for me. Yeah.
I love that. So you've mentioned so being assertive. So it also, and you also mentioned earlier that when you went to Europe for your master's, like you needed to do maybe some things that you really didn't want to do, but needed to like learn and just be adapting to the environment. So I think that's also like part of it, like when grabbing opportunities. Let's say you're introverted and you need to get out of your comfort zone to speak to someone, so you need to just challenge yourself, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think usually as individuals, we kind of know what our areas of improvement are, right? Yeah. If you're very honest with you, if you really have an honest conversation with yourself, you kind of know what your areas of improvement are. And those are usually once you start working on those, you become a holistic human being that can achieve your full potential. For you to do that. So I had to adapt. I mean, I learned how to speak very broken Spanish, but it got me around,
Yeah.
It allowed me to travel, it allowed me to understand the culture of Spain, right? Coming here, I'm more comfortable because it's an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
You kind of know how the British work to a certain degree, but in its there are also other things that I need to adjust to,
Yeah.
They have traditions that they do as they work that, there's this concept of going to the pub. I don't want to always, I think for 8 hours, I don't want to, but you need to do that because that's where networking within the team happens. That's where you get to see the other side of people. So some of these things you just need to come out of your comfort zone in order to at the end of the day, you know what your final goal is. So in order for you to get that goal, you just need to do what you need to do.
I love that. So have a goal and do everything you need to do to get it. I love that.
That is do everything that's legal and respectful.
That's legal. I like that. Awesome. Thank you. I can see another question. Please give us tips on how to make our work visible.
That's a good one. Because that was and still is an area of improvement for me.
Yeah.
I've learned over a couple of years that you need to have, I call them a tribe of people that speak about you in rooms that you're not necessarily in. So have a group of friends or a group of colleagues that you always throw each other's names around when, they know your strong suit. So if Susan is an amazing Java programmer, when the next time I hear anything about Java, I'm like, hey, I know this lady called Susan and, this is what she does and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So have that. Then what one of my first managers, lovely lady, what she challenged me to do, and I hate this because I find, firstly, I don't like meetings about meetings, and we tend to have meetings about meetings, and meeting that could be an email, right?
Yeah.
But she challenged me to, after every session or meeting that I'm in, either say something or ask a question.
Yeah.
Now, please, guys, let's not say things for the sake of saying things. Let's be constructive when we're doing this, but either say something. And usually she used to say, be the last person, because that's the person they remember. The last person, right? Okay. So it's building this network of people who would champion your work. Person who is assertive enough to say, this is what I did, this is how good I am. But you learn to do that because sometimes there's nobody to champion you.
For sure.
What did and achieved. So I would say get a tribe of people, know what each other's strengths and weaknesses are, and then selling each other out to the different teams and try to be constructive in meetings. Maybe a meeting, for example, maybe there's an agenda, on point. You give each other, people remember things like that. So,
And on that, how will you advise someone to use, let's say, social media for this purpose as well? Or maybe you're not such a social media advocate, I don't know.
Well, social media, like all my accounts are private. So if you look at my friends, apart from the honeypot chats account, most if not all my accounts are very private, and they're very secluded to a certain number of people. I should know you, we should have some sort of a relationship, I mean, LinkedIn is one where I just allow anybody and build a relationship, but my personal social media accounts, it's more with family, friends, people that I probably went to school with a long time ago, stuff like that. When it comes to honeypot chats, it's something that Matambile and I need to do at some point in time, because we do audio episodes. A lot of people have given feedback in terms of video, but you're like, video, in two different areas, So I think for growing your work, a lot of what I've seen is, at least from what I've been told from the marketing experts, is that you need to have the interactive thing gone live, do reels and all of that stuff.
Making noise.
Start making noise. I'm still learning there. But LinkedIn is a very good tool because you grow organically. It's a very good tool for your business, because what happens is, if I tag you, let's say you and I are doing something, I tag you, I'm already tapping into your network, right? And if someone in your network shares the post or whatever it is, we're tapping into that other person's network. So we're literally growing organically. Whilst with these other social media platforms, I find you kind of need to push things to certain demographics and stuff like that. I think in my limited knowledge about social media,
Okay, awesome. So LinkedIn is, I also agree. LinkedIn has given me amazing networks. So I continue to learn and grow and just meet amazing people out there doing amazing things.
And just to comment on LinkedIn, what I would say is, especially if, and again, this is a personal opinion or personal observation, what I found is that European markets, if you want to actually move to European markets, they tend to look a lot at what you're doing on LinkedIn. That's almost like your CV type of thing. So polish up your LinkedIn. You don't necessarily have to say everything that you've done, but the key highlights done on your LinkedIn. Get a nice professional photo on LinkedIn, because usually like what I do when I'm interviewing people or when I'm being interviewed, the first thing is go to LinkedIn and just
check your work here for sure.
Say the work and see the person who it is. It also gives you points to talk about. So let's say one of my passion projects is mentorship, right? Someone can now have about mentorship in an interview, and that can help us connect. So LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that we underutilize.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. I can see Mary saying she's bad at LinkedIn. I think maybe as we come to the end, Brenda will share her profile with us, and you can get to see maybe what you can borrow and maybe just uplift your LinkedIn profile. And so I can see two more questions. How did you handle transitioning from one organization to the other?
I say I would like to think that I'm good at transitioning because I've moved so many times. But that being said, so the differences between the job here in the UK and the job in Spain was that language was a very big thing. So when onboarding, I really didn't have somebody to onboard me in Spain properly from a language perspective. So it was almost self-taught where tools are, or some of the tools that you need to use. Whilst with the company that I'm with here in the UK, there is some sort of an onboarding process, and it's in English that I understand. So I'm not saying that the Spanish firm did not have one. It probably had one, but it was geared majority to its Spanish employees versus the English speaking ones.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very hard. There was a lot of Google translation trying to understand stuff, like,
I can imagine. Oh, good.
My contract was in Spanish, so I was like, okay, I'm not sure what I'm signing, but they've said
Oh, that's crazy. Oh my God.
a lot of Google Translate. So that, I think that also helps.
Yeah.
Another thing that has helped me transition here is that I have family and friends in the country, so it's not a lonely journey.
Yeah, for
Per
sure.
se, I've rekindled some people that I went to primary school with, like grade 6, grade 7.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that in itself allows for the transition. So I think for me, those were the two main things that helped. Yeah.
Awesome. Actually, I usually hear like when people like move to a new country, they just try to look for a community from their country back home so that they can get just people to hang out with, maybe just friends. Yeah, for sure. I love
important.
that.
You actually don't realize how important community is until you're isolated in a place where not everybody like you or thinks like you, and small little things like food, you guys call it ugali, we call it chima, just little things like that where it's not the same, but you find, so it really is hard. I think people definitely underestimate the mental toll that moving countries, companies, and that takes on you. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Oh, amazing. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I can see one last question. How do you manage to grow and maintain a professional network? Yes.
I think my networking skills improved when I was very deliberate in my master's, because I did a job. And like I said, I was not going back to anything. I had sold that I had quit my job. So there was nothing for me to precisely go home. So networking is a very important thing. And I have friends that are introverts and that don't like it, but again, it's coming out of that shell for a certain goal that you want to achieve. And I tend, like I said, I'm easily approachable, so that also helps. Having conversations, and I am the person who goes up to you and says, "Hi, my name is," and
I love it. Awesome.
If you don't want to have a conversation, then okay, thanks, and then we move away, you move to the next person. You need to be very deliberate in terms of networking as well. So I haven't been that good since moving to the UK. What I used to do is go to like cybersecurity conferences, also HR conferences, and just other industry conferences, because that's where you get to hear other departments' pain points that you can hence sell your products or your solutions to. So if I go to, I don't know, an HR conference and I find that they have a people, problem around security, then I know, okay, that's an opportunity for me to go and advocate for the industry and the like. So a lot of those conferences, also social things. I like traveling a lot. Going out, and what I can say, or how I can say network is important. The job that I have right now was through networking.
Wow, a referral. Amazing.
No, through networking, so a friend knew somebody knows somebody, my name was put in, I did the interviews, they liked what they saw, and I actually got the job. So it's very important.
Yeah, for sure. Networking. So I hope Musabi has taken some notes from that. Thank you so much, Brenda. And with no more questions on the chat, maybe someone has just joined us right now. What is like a parting shot you have for them to just take away?
So find good mentors, because they will help you in cultivating your career progression. Be passionate about what you want to do.
Yeah.
You know, the whole be passionate and never work a day in your life. Yeah. Not that there are no hardships in the job that we have. There are hardships,
yeah, for sure.
most of the time you're very passionate about getting up and going to do the work, right? So be very passionate about that. When you're given the opportunity, deliver.
Yeah.
Because somebody else behind you is watching. Somebody else behind you wants that opportunity, and you are basically the litmus for that particular opportunity, and future growth within that area that you're in. I think I said this, have a network of people that help you harness your skills and develop your skills and shout about what your skills are about. Yeah, so I think those are the main parting words. Yeah.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you so much. We've all learned so much from you, from your journey, from your work in the community, from your experiences. We just want to say that we appreciate you for sharing with us. And maybe now we want you to shout, where can we get you? Where can you get to your podcast and listen to your work? How can we support what you're doing for the community? Maybe you can just shout it to us right now. Yeah.
Thanks. So for the podcast, it's available on major platforms. So your Apple, your Google, Spotify. So it's called Honeypot Chats. So Honeypot Chat. Social media, we're at Honeypot Chats. So we're available on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Please go follow us, help us grow, share our content. Women in Tech Network. We're also available on LinkedIn and Facebook. So if you're a woman in tech in Zambia and you haven't joined, please join us. Be part of a member, be part of the tribe for us to try and disrupt the status quo. If you're a company, we're looking for sponsors as always. So Women in Tech Africa, we will be coming to you to see how we can collaborate together. And Walk with Courage initiative in Zambia. So if you're a corporate in Zambia and you're willing, do you have a CSR budget, please, to us. The other lady is Mainza Chizuka. She's also available on LinkedIn. But if you want to reach out, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Brenda Zikonda. So yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate sharing my journey, and I hope everybody has learned something that they can take and use. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brenda. It was an amazing session. I don't know if Gloria is still on the call. Gloria? Okay, I guess maybe I'll just have to wrap it up. Okay, thank you so much, Brenda. It has been amazing. Just like having this conversation with you. I've learned so much. And we definitely hope to get to work together with Women in Tech Network Zambia and just see how we can, again, just continue encouraging more women to join us in the tech space and just make it a community where we can just help each other and grow the communities as well, and just have amazing people, network, as you've said, and just continue growing and learning from each other. So thank you so much for joining us and sparing your time with us today.
Thank you.
It has been amazing. So thank you also to all the listeners who joined us in today's session. I hope you've been able to grasp many knowledge points as I have, and you can just have that now to guide you in your career journey, be it in tech and even more specific in cybersecurity. So thank you so much. It's I think night for many of us. So I wish you all a lovely night and an amazing weekend that's coming up. And all the best in your journeys, and we shall meet again for next month's session, hopefully. So bye-bye.
Yes, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.